guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom Premium. I'm your host, Nina.
I'm Donald.
And I'm Kaylee.
And we are back to discuss Extraordinary Attorney Woo. 이상한 변호사 유영우. I haven't spoken Korean all day. You know, I typically speak Korean every day.
Muttering Korean to yourself almost every day.
Yes. If I don't do it out loud, I feel like I'm going to forget everything. So I try to speak it as much as I can. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about Season 1, Episodes 11 and 12. Episode 11 is called Mr. Salt, Miss Pepper, and Attorney Soy Sauce. And Episode 12 is called
Yangtze River Dolphin. I don't know if I said that right, but it's close.
That was way better than I would have did. Like, you said that with the confidence of somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. But, yes, you said that with the confidence of a white man.
Yes.
You were like, I'm just going to pretend that this is right.
Well, how do you spell it? What is it?
Yangtze.
Oh, I thought it was a Korean word, so I was like, why are you having him say it instead of you?
Oh, no, that's why he's saying it. Say it again.
Yangtze. I mean, technically it is. It's a river.
No, I don't think it's in Korea, though.
Oh, really? I thought it was.
I thought she was talking about...
Is that the name of the river or the name of
the dolphin?
It's the river. Well, it's the dolphin because they live in that river.
Well, let's look it up. Spell it again.
Yangtze. Yeah.
I like how, like, every time we start recording, we just start looking shit up and people just have to listen to it. It is the longest river in Asia, the third longest in the world, and the longest in the world to flow entirely into one country.
Let me see how it's spelled. Let me look at it.
What country?
It's always like Yahtzee.
Yeah.
Yangtze? How do you spell Yahtzee? Yeah, isn't it T-Z-E at the end of Yahtzee? Mm-hmm. So Yangtze. Yangtze. Yeah, because the other spelling is Y-A-N-G-Z-I. Yeah, Yangtze. And it goes into China.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a Chinese.
Mm-hmm. When the T-Z, I thought it might be Chinese. So, yeah. Look at y'all. Y'all done learned something today. Everybody said, we knew this. We knew how to pronounce it. We knew where it was. We knew it was the third largest in the world. We knew it was the largest to flow into one country. And we're waiting for the rest of you dum-dums to catch up. Well, sorry. Okay. So what do you guys think of these? I'm laughing because I just remember how they ended and what's coming up. So what did you think of these episodes? Who wants to go first?
Can I go first?
Yes, talk louder.
This first episode.
The way she's screaming into the mic. The turn it took me off guard.
Yes. I was just weird because it took me off guard too. So I really wanted y'all to see it.
Not only, like, from the husband being a terrible person, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
To him dying,
yeah.
I didn't see that coming. But I was like, wow, okay. I guess that's that. And then just, wrapped up the case pretty nicely.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
Couldn't happen to a better guy.
I mean, it's terrible that everyone kind of freaked out and moved.
Yeah.
Had a little panic attack over it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Happy ending.
What about the next episode?
I forgot what it was.
So where the boss, Myung-suk, thinks that he's being stalked, and there's the wives who had to... It wasn't as sexy a case. The wives who had to... The company that had spouses working for it, and they had to do layoffs, so they said that they would keep one of the spouses and the other one would have... Right. But they were pushing the wives to take the severance package. Right. And if they didn't, their husbands would be fired. Right. Yeah, that whole thing.
The sexist one.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching this episode, and at one point I was like, I like how they just introduced this third subplot that really has nothing to do with anything, and then, the end of it kicks on, and you're like, oh.
Oh, you mean about the boss?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a lead attorney, senior attorney.
That's actually way more important than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That second one was one of the lowest rated on IMDb.
Probably because it had to do with women's rights. Patriarchy is a motherfucker.
But I think the stuff with the boss was
the best stuff of that episode.
Mm-hmm.
That was the... just,
and so you guys did not see that coming, like, at all.
no.
So neither did I. And, obviously we're talking about it now. So the end of that episode, when he coughs into the napkin, or he starts coughing and he's like... Because first he's just, like, out of breath and, like, trying to get his bearings because he felt so stupid that he thought, he was going to die. Somebody was chasing him. But then the more he keeps, like, coughing, and you can tell, he's like, what the hell's wrong with me? And then he sees the blood. And in TV, that's never... Well, in real life, too. It's never a good thing to cough up blood. But in TV, it's typically... A sign. It's typically, like, cancer. It's typically fatal. It's typically something really bad. And so when I first watched this, I obviously didn't see it coming. That ending, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be good. But, like, watching it with you guys, knowing that it was coming, I was, like, able to see stuff, like, leading up to it. And there's stuff that's going to happen in the next 2 episodes, which, again, I feel like there were so many, with this character in particular, there's so many, like, little things that they, like, dropped. So that when you learn more about him, you can be like, oh, okay, But in terms of him being sick, they really did, like, very subtly kind of, like, set that up. And I'll say more once we watch the next 2 episodes. But, there were episodes where he would be sleeping in the middle of the day in the office. In this episode in particular, I think the one thing we noticed was his diet was terrible. He was just a bunch of fast food burgers.
But I took that as, okay, he's held up in this office because he's scared for his life. So he felt safe in this office. So I just took it as, okay, he's
getting burgers delivered.
Right, he's just eating it out of his office because he feels safe here.
Right. But
these guys out there possibly going to kill him.
But if you think back, like, you see that he often ate in his office and, like, was sleeping at work, and there was, like, one scene in particular where he was, like, sweating a lot for no reason, like, little stuff like that. Really?
You keep saying they can. I only remember vaguely one scene of him sleeping in the middle of his office, but that's it. That's the only thing I remember.
Well, and now the thing is, when I noticed stuff, I couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Or else I would have, like, written down what I was talking about. But so, what did you think, Donnie?
No, same thing. Like, the case in the first one was really interesting. It was good. The second one was all right, but it was, I thought the stuff going on in the outside of the case was the good stuff. Mm-hmm. Even in the first one, like, if you think about, like, Quan going to the other one, trying to blackmail them, and so he's just getting. God! I completely forgot that he's becoming like the super villain.
He's terrible at it.
So I'm just waiting for that to backfire, because he also found out and we haven't seen, because he found out in the second episode that Wu and his roommate are together. So we haven't seen him react to that in front of his roommate or Wu.
Right.
So just curious to see how that comes out. Now that because of what he's doing to Wu, like, is he gonna back off, or is he gonna keep being an asshole? Because his roommate, what's his name? He's not gonna. I'm just waiting for Jun Ho to beat his ass.
What's his name? Jun Ho. I was like, Jun Ho. Who's that?
Jun Ho.
Okay. So y'all ready to talk about the details?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So episode 11, Mr. Salt, Miss Pepper, and Attorney Soy Sauce. Blah, blah, blah. So the episode begins with the case, which I always think is kind of cool. And I think you said, was it you or was it like my reaction channel?
No,
sometimes you forget that it starts
it.
with the case, so you're always like, what's happening? Who are these
Kaylee
people?
said it last podcast.
Yeah. So this one, because gambling is illegal in Korea, so there's this gambling spot, and these 3 men are playing cards, and the lottery is being announced on the TV, and one of them men win the jackpot, and him and the other 2 men get excited and celebrating because it's a great thing. But we find out later that 2 of the men are suing the men who won. The other 2 are suing the man who won because they claim that they made an agreement to split it all evenly.
We never did find out if that was true or not.
That's what I was going to say to you guys. Like, I asked you guys, because I couldn't remember
if they made that promise on screen or not.
They never did. And the funny thing is, when I watched this the first time, I think I just assumed that they had.
Yeah.
that they had made that promise and that maybe I missed it or was, you know what I mean? And so as the case was going on, even watching it again with you guys, I was just like, did they make that promise? Because I don't think they showed it. That's why I asked you, like, do you believe them? So now, having seen the episode, knowing what you know about the guy, knowing what you know about the friend, do you think they made that promise?
Yeah,
I do.
I don't think they did.
I
don't think they did.
I think they would have told us if they didn't. But I because even that, because the other guy, we didn't see any kind of him acting up and.
Yeah, because he was the one who was like, we can just get somebody to say that they heard him say it. Remember? Yeah. And then Wu was like, no, you can't do that. Like, the other guy was like willing to, I don't know. But he was so like upset about it. Like, that makes me think that the promise was made. But I doubt it.
I feel like the promise was made because the guy that they had as a witness wouldn't go because he was an illegal.
Oh, so he's saying he heard it. That's right. But he was there illegally. That's right.
He didn't want to get deported, so he's like, I'm not going to go up there.
So they were just really three shitty
like
people.
Said, I feel like if they didn't actually make that promise, that's something the show would tell us.
Right.
As like a twist.
Okay.
Like one of those messed up twists, and you find out at the end of the episode, and Wu's like, "Oh no! Like there was no real promise. This case was
like the guy with the ATM machine one guy."
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So the guy who hires them comes in with his wife, and he's carrying her on his back because she broke her heel in the street on the way to the lawyer's office. So they immediately are setting up that he is this really great husband, and goes above and beyond. And we find out that she had been supporting them for most of the marriage, and they have like 2 or 3 kids.
2.
And so, this money could help them a lot. So, we'll talk about the case in a minute. Let's talk about a little bit of the private stuff that happens in this episode. Wu doesn't know how to handle like her emotions when it comes to Junho. So now they've admitted that they like each other, right? Mm-hmm. They're going out on dates and stuff, right? But she like does things like she knows when he arrives to work. So she was just
we already experienced the first kiss, right? Or was it during these 2 episodes? Well, we
did.
Yeah, I was going to say
it was when the episode with the special needs girl.
Right.
Yeah. So she would like wait to see him when he comes in, and she was just like, "Okay,
I just wanted to see you.
Just wanted to see you. Going back up to my desk now." Or she would just be staring at him from her office. But what's sweet was when he went. Yeah, when he went to the window and like put his hand up on the glass and all that stuff. There's a really cute moment where she's in the elevator and the CEO gets in the elevator. And remember, the CEO has been confronted by her dad. Mm-hmm. And she's like, is there something on your mind? You could talk to me. And she's like, oh, it's personal. I don't think it's appropriate. And she goes, well, no, it's okay. And she goes, when you kiss someone, do you normally have like your mouth all the way open and your eyes? The CEO was like, you know what?
This wasn't what I thought you
Yeah, this is fine. Right. There's a really cute scene where she learns about puns. Because
I think you showed me the scene when you watched it for the first time.
Yeah, she was so funny because how long it took her to get them, like when she realized what it was and why.
But the best part was when she goes and tells
Junho on the phone,
and he knows the answers to all of them, and her face is just like,
oh my god, you are amazing. Yeah. And then Soo-young has a new boyfriend who seems sweet. He brings her flowers. He brings her tea because she's not feeling well.
Came out of nowhere though. Like we never saw how they met.
Yeah, she was just like, I'm gonna meet somebody.
She met somebody and he was a player.
Oh no, we know how she met him. It was a blind date.
Really?
I thought she said, because we know she'd been going out on blind dates because that episode when she came in and he's like, where are you going? And she was like, Soketing. I always remember that because it sounds like skating. Soketing is blind dates in Korea. And that is a lot of how dating works in Korea. It is not like how here our culture, and of course they have this stuff, but here people are more likely to meet and date absolute strangers. Like, you meet them on your own terms, like either through a dating app or out in public, you know, approaching you. Where in Korea, it's more common for people to hook you up. So even when they say, like, blind dates, typically it's like, it's blind because,
You don't know.
right, you're trusting somebody else to say, I think you would be a good match. And one thing I've seen...
You gotta go through, like, traditions of... Well, you see it in old societies. You see it in Game of Thrones stuff. But back when families used to, hey, you're marrying this type of person. So it's kind of just, it's graduated from there, but it's still a little bit of that.
Right. And I've actually had this conversation with folks where I was like, you know, it's weird because, like, here, you may have parents and stuff like that who will be like, oh, I think you might get along with my son or my nephew or something like that. But it's very common.
Right.
And I was saying, to me, it's very weird because it's like, I don't want my dad being like, you know, I think you should fuck my daughter. Like, what is the thought process? Are you looking at somebody, you know, you'll be good for my kid? Like, I don't want my parents involved in that process.
I've noticed that's also common in Japan because I see it a lot, but it's just like, it's more like and like in other K-dramas we've watched too, like Signal.
Her mom. Sue's mom.
And it's like they're just trying to find someone to have their child settle down with
yes.
and get married.
And it's about, and it really is about not trying to be like nosy and intrusive, but about that like making sure your kids are settled when you're gone.
With a good person too.
Yeah, with a good
They're
person.
Like making sure it's like someone handsome,
right,
someone with a stable job,
right,
someone who has cooking and cleaning skills,
right, good family, like that type of thing. Yeah. So Quan is still snooping on the internet. And okay, back to the case. So the case basically comes down to, first, did somebody overhear this promise? And the person, like you said, who didn't want to testify because he was in the country illegally from China.
Yeah.
He was Korean, but from China.
Right.
And he, so then the waitress of the place came and testified that she heard it. And the guy who was like, this is bullshit, he says, well, she's fucking around with that guy, the married guy who hired Wu and them. So you can't trust her. She's like, no, I'm not. And then the judge was like, are you having an affair with him? She was like, no, ma'am. And then she was like, okay, her testimony is fine. I'm like, they do that a lot in Korea. Like, they would just legit ask you.
And then the guy does the little finger hearts.
Yes.
And Wu sees it.
Wu sees it. So she's like, okay, he did lie. He was cheating on his wife. So they end up winning. And his cut of it, so they each get like 1.4 billion won, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And after he wins, he comes bearing gifts to Wu, and she won't accept it. But he's like, it's just a gift card. It's just a gift card. And then he wants some advice. And he's basically asking if someone like him who won this lottery, who got this winnings, like if they got a divorce, would they have to share the winnings with their spouse? And she was like, no. And he's like, good to know. Thanks. Bye. Okay, thanks. Bye. So she gets advice from Soo Young because she's like, I think he's going to try to fuck over his wife. And he had made a promise in the courtroom after they won. Like, you don't have to worry anymore. I'm going to take care of you.
You and the kids.
Right. So, she gets advice from Soo Young, like, maybe you should try to tell her, but in a way that's not breaking the claim.
Right, because
she's the husband's attorney, not the wife's. Right. But then the boss is like, nah, you need to shut up. You don't need to be, mind your business. So she goes anyway. Because the wife's kimbap shop makes it with fried tofu.
Right.
So she's like, I'm going to go get me some fried tofu kimbap. So, when they get there, they see that the husband bought, like $300,000 car?
He was going to. At this point, I don't think he had bought it yet.
Oh, he wanted to, that's right.
But this was the fight. He fought. They were fighting.
Like, he messed up the stuff in the shop.
Right.
And stormed out. So, Wu and Junho have this, like, hypothetical conversation so the wife can hear it. And then she realizes it. And later she comes to them, too, to try to get them to represent her.
Right.
And she was like, well, it's like you told me. And then Wu was like, what? Who told you what? I didn't tell you nothing. And I know the boss figured it out.
But it was soy sauce.
Yeah. So the husband does buy the car.
Yep.
And
like half of his winnings.
And he gets into a car accident.
Because he was so angry. Because he saw
her with the attorney.
Her with the lawyers. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I want to talk to me.
Nico! Stop it. So... like when this happened, when the car hit his car, like you said, like you did, when I first watched this, I was just like, although there was like, because I don't know, with K-dramas, when anybody's near a curb, they start to cross the street, I'm like, are they going to get hit by a car? I don't know why.
You watch too much Final Destination.
No, it's just the way K-dramas are set up.
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't.
Right.
You never know.
You never know.
People get hit by cars in K-dramas.
Yeah.
I mean,
so...
he has to see Goblin. The amount of stress that show puts you in. Every time anyone crosses the street in Goblin,
you're just like,
it's a 50-50.
Yeah, I can't call it. That might be their last episode. But yeah, the truck hit him, and it hit like the passenger side, like it T-boned him, and I was like, how did he die from that? And y'all were trying to explain to me like
maybe
how that could happen.
Even, like, he probably didn't even have a seatbelt on
right.
either.
But even that, just the impact alone could snap your neck.
I mean, you want to test it?
No, I'm just like, I was like, wow, I didn't know like that's all it takes. Yeah, that's true. And, and you could tell it was instant because like his eyes were open and stuff. But the wife is freaking out, and but like those are like her kid's father, and I can like there was a part of me that I was like, sister, you gotta solve your problems, but like no, I can tell, I can understand why you would. That's terrible. This is terrible.
That guy would have been out of this kid's lives anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But still, they don't know that. Like, she still has to have that conversation. And then to witness it. I don't want to witness that happen to anybody. And speaking of which, Woo flips out, right? Because she witnesses. And Jun-ho, this is, I like, because I forgot this part. Like, I knew that this was going to happen. It's one of my favorite things. He puts her in a bear hug, like holding her from behind, and basically wrapping his arms around her, keeping her arms like, close to her own body. And she had put the ear. Did she put her ear? I don't know.
No, because she didn't have time to.
Right. And then he is hugging her like this, and then she is saying tighter. So he does it tighter. And I didn't remember that later. He knew to do that because he had been he had been studying things, about people with autism. Yeah. So she was thanking him and was going to explain it. He goes, no, I know why. And he goes, did you know that there's a chair for people with autism? You sit in it and it just like a chair hug. And she was like, can you buy it in Korea? And he goes, I don't know, but like I could be your
Germany or something.
He goes, I could be your chair hug. I was like,
you don't need one. You got me.
Oh my god. So they kiss, and her dad sees it. Yep. He's going to take out the trash. He is like, what in the fuck is happening here? This poor man. This girl done.
She growing up too fast for
him.
She
wearing less and going out more. He's like, what's going on? So, fucking Kwon takes his ass to Taeson, Sumi, Woo's mom, and he's like, look, I know. And I just
he first comes in there, he's like, give me a job.
Yeah, he's like, I want to work.
HR.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I know this stuff.
And then she tells him, if you can get her to quit, to leave. Or get fired. Hambada. I will hire you.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about that?
He's going to do what he's going to do.
He's terrible at it.
Yeah, he really is. That's the other thing. He's really bad at it. Like, she can't even get herself fired. Like, even when he thinks that she did something that she should get punished for or fired, it just backfires because she's brilliant.
But and then the next episode, he really tried. Like, he... Yeah, because he sent over the file. Yeah. So he was trying to get her in trouble for that.
Yeah, that's right.
but he was kind of leading her on, like, hey, this woman's got this nice law firm. She's independent. Doesn't that sound good? Like, trying to get her to quit on her own will to go do what this woman's doing, or go join this woman's law firm because she's doing it for the good and all this type of stuff. But I see if something happens to the boss, because the boss right now is protecting her, but if something happens to him, then I think he can get his way.
Yeah.
And then I think the whole law firm's going to fall apart.
The whole law firm.
Yep.
Downfall.
Yep.
Bonnie done this business been family for generations. He's like, no, it's about to ruin.
Yep.
This motherfucker Quan. Okay.
One guy time.
So in this next case, like we already talked about like what it's about, but I want to talk about the fact that the judge is the judge from the episode with the North Korean defector.
Yeah.
And he's really big on names, but the woman attorney, the opposing counsel, has the same name as him. So it starts to work in her favor, even though when he first brought it up, he was like, what's your dad's family's name or some shit? And she was like, why are you asking about my dad? Is it because patriarchy? Are you sexist? He was like, no. And then after that, like anything she said, he was like, sustained. So in this episode, Myung-suk is stressing out because he learns from Han that a client that they represented who got jail time, but they got him like a 7-year sentence or something. He got out and attacked one of the attorneys on the case.
Yeah.
Myung-suk was one. There was another attorney. He went and attacked that guy like at home or something.
Yeah.
And so the whole episode,
the guy's on the run. They don't know where he's at.
Yeah, they don't know where the guy is. So he's all stressed out thinking he's going to be attacked.
Right.
And
Living
we
out
could
in
just,
his office.
I guess we could just like go to the end and say it. And at the end of the episode, he learns that the guy is caught, so he can like let down his guard, but he starts coughing and he's coughing up blood.
Yeah.
So what do we think?
He's sick. He's dying.
I don't think he's gonna die. I like to have.
You know, K-dramas don't care about your feelings.
Kaylee.
So there's this interesting part where Kwon tells Woo that the company that they're representing, they're representing the company that let go.
Right.
They had a merger. There were some redundancies, and they had to let people go. And they went to couples who worked for the company and basically were making it so that they were pressuring the wives to be the ones to take the severance packages to save their husbands' careers, right? And so 2 of the wives sued them for it. And Kwon tells...
Because they had, I think their thing was that their career was better than their husbands was. Right. That kind of what it was? Yeah.
Right. And that these women should be willing to sacrifice to support their husbands' careers. Right. So Kwon tells Woo that because that company is their client, Hanbara is the one who advised them to handle the merger this way. When they were consulting with their attorneys about the merger and the possibility of redundancies, this is a policy that Hanbara suggested to them. And so Woo just feels like, what are we doing? You know, why are we in the business of doing stuff like that? And she brings it up to Myung-suk, and he does kind of snap at her. Where it's like, you know, not every case, you're not going to change the world on every case, you know? Yeah. Sometimes things is just the way they are, and they suck. Also, this is the episode, you guys, Kwon learns that Woo and Junho are dating. How does he learn it again?
Because the other girl tells him.
Oh, that's right, because she said they left together.
Yeah, and he's like, why? Why did they leave together?
Because he was trying to sneak in her office, that's right.
Yeah. And he's like, why is he with her?
Yeah. Now, here's what's interesting. Here's what's very interesting. He learned that they were dating. Junho is, if not his best friend, definitely his roommate and his friend. he went in that office anyway
Yes.
and still set her up after learning that they were dating.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to get his ass beat.
So what he did was he sent the information that the company advised them to do this to the opposing counsel anonymously, but with
her business card.
Wu's business card in the envelope.
Yep.
Right. So, there's a really interesting conversation between Wu and Junho where she tells him, my dad saw us kissing and he wants to meet you, but I told him no because we aren't dating. Because to her, they like each other, and then they made an agreement to just go on a few dates before they committed, right? So that's what they've been doing, but they never had the committed conversation.
Right.
And so to her, that just means we're still in the dating phase. Why am I going to introduce you to my dad, right? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, I've done all this shit for you.
And then we learn that they've been doing the things on her list, and it's stuff like protesting animal cruelty. Picking up trash. But when they went to the arcade, Kaylee, what did they do?
They did the spot the difference game, and she was beating his butt the entire time.
So he basically said he hadn't had any.
He doesn't
fun
have fun, right? He's doing, and that's I love that they're doing this with this relationship. Like they're not they are showing that you can date a person with special needs. You can date somebody who's autistic, right? And you will have to make not sacrifices, but just like in any relationship, you're going to have to learn how to make compromises and
right.
think, right? Like he can't hold her hand, right?
Right.
She's not going to be down with things with loud noises and stuff like concerts is probably not her jam, right? Mm-hmm. So that type of stuff. But I like that they're showing that she has stuff to learn too, right? That he's not babying her and saying, I don't like this shit, but I'm just going to keep doing all the stuff she wants to do just to be with her. I like that they allowed this relationship to progress to him saying, yeah, we can do that stuff sometimes, but like, we only eat at kimbap places. He was like, I never get to eat anything I want to eat. And so maybe it would be nice if sometimes we did that stuff too. I just think that's really cool that, you know, he admitted that, and that is something that she's forced to consider. Because, you know, as much as she can, she's going to have to make some compromises too. I think, right? So the HR person who presented this offer to the women in court, his personal notebook is brought out because it turns out the opposing counsel says someone sent it to them anonymously, but actually they just got one of the women that still worked there.
It was the woman that testified the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. But we learned that she did that because she was trying to pay for like IV, like, right? Wasn't there something
she was going to the hospital.
So, okay, we have groceries on the way, so I'm just checking to see if they were there. But so they end up losing the case anyway, and the women who lost, plus their attorney, invite Soo-young and Woo to this like celebration they're having on the rooftop of the law offices, the women's law offices, and they have like a rooftop garden. It's really nice, and she serves them bibimbap, and Woo was like, no kimbap, and Soo-young's like, girl, eat what they give you. Just eat what you were given and hush. And the attorney tells her, she returns the stuff to her, and she says, I didn't send you this, and she says, well, somebody got it out for you. Yeah.
So she gonna find out.
And then we learn Myung-suk is sick, so that's the end of that.
The one thing I did like in that episode is we get the judge back that we had from a few episodes back of the family lineage guy, the name guy. And I feel like that lawyer was so proud of herself that she could have won that easily by winning over this judge, but she was
She
like,
didn't.
No, she didn't let the whole friendship thing or the name thing, and she went above what he was. Yeah, it just.
So let me just also mention something we talked about. We were watching it. There were two actors who we've seen in other stuff, and I'm always the one that's like, "Do you know who that is?" And the two of you are like, "Oh, you do."
I got the lawyer. what she said.
Yeah, you did. So in this episode, the opposing attorney was from Sweet Home. She was the woman who had lost her baby, but she was still pushing around a stroller like she had a baby. And then in the previous episode, the shitty husband was... This is a deep cut, though.
Yeah, I didn't remember.
It's his face. It's so...
It's like, he was an extra in this show for 3 seconds. And I'm like, what?
It's his face. It is so unique, his face. To me. He was in Squid Game. He was... So, I don't want to spoil it too much for folks who still may want to watch it, but someone sneaks into a situation and goes undercover, and they're paired with someone who wears a mask the entire time. And when we finally see who's under the mask, it's that guy. That's all I'll say.
Could you imagine if there's people out there that have not watched Squid Game?
Yeah?
Yeah, of course
It's
there
insane.
Yeah.
Just stubborn white people. I don't read subtitles.
This is true.
I'm like, I bet it's not that good.
Yeah, that's
Koreans.
Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. There's so many white people just missing out on a lot of good things. Like Bong Joon-ho said, it's like that half-inch line barrier at the bottom of the screen.
Just overcoming subtitles.
Yeah,
that's it.
Just keeping y'all from greatness, you ignorant Westerners. But anyway, so that's it, you guys.
Wait.
What? I'm like ready to put the fans on. It's hot in here. I'm getting a little hungry. I'm getting a little shaky.
Brought this up on the... Well, maybe we did, because I think we talked about it actually on the podcast.
What?
Never mind. The fact that I was able to recognize... Well, we both recognize him, but you talked yourself out of it. The guy from...
I don't think we did talk about it on the podcast. Did we? Or we were like looking it up.
Yeah,
I don't
but
remember.
I don't remember if we were recording.
Oh, that the guy, he wasn't credited guy?
Yeah. That was so, like, that's actually very satisfying to know that is the same person.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I talked myself out of it.
Because
I immediately
wasn't credited.
And I thought, yes. And, I mean, the very first time I watched the episode without you, remember? Like, you hadn't seen this, and I called you in here, and I was like, isn't that the boyfriend from Coup? And you were like, I think so, yeah. And I'm like, but he's not credited. And so, yeah.
And then I did my Googles, because, like, we couldn't remember the name of the character he played in Coup.
Right.
So we had to look him up.
Yes.
And then look up his actor, even though he wasn't credited.
Yeah. And now, you know what? That actually happened to me before. I learned, I don't remember who it was, but I had to actually look the actor up just through Google. And there was like another site that listed what they were in. Kind of like there was something with anime voice actors that happened another time. Where we went to a site and it was just like it had the actor and it listed like stuff that they did. And I feel like there was something that wasn't like in IMDb. Or was like harder to find on IMDb or something like that. Oh, you know what it was? Sometimes shows don't have the English actors, or they don't have all the English dubbed actors in anime. Yeah. So it'll be an episode with like 50 fucking voice characters in it. They'll have all the Japanese ones and just like some of the English.
Like the main cast.
Yeah. And then that's it. You won't know who the other people are. So. All right, so we are super excited to watch more and record more for you guys. Thank you for following along on this journey. We are almost done. Next week are the penultimate episodes. It is a 2-parter, and I'm not even going to tell you where we're going because we're going somewhere in those episodes. I'll let it be a surprise. So I'm super excited about that. Kaylee and I are finishing up Itaewon class this week. Me and John and Donnie are actually finishing up She-Hulk next week. Me and Donnie are beginning Interview with the Vampire this week. And Kaylee and I are beginning next week Chainsaw Man. There's a lot of great stuff coming up. Continuing Spy Family. Sarah and I doing House of the Dragon every week. These 3-hour podcasts.
I don't know how you do it. Like, you start at 3 o'clock and you finish at 6 o'clock. I'm just like, how? It's like I'd sit in the bedroom with Nico and I'm just like, when is she gonna be done?
Listen. Me and my girl Sarah, we be breaking it down, okay? Okay? The show is one of the best shows I've seen in a very long time. I'm so excited that it's so good. So we got a lot to talk about. And then people, like, that's a show, though. Like, we get feedback for that show. We get like 6 or 7 emails, and then people are sending in like 3 and 4 paragraphs, and everybody wants to talk about it. So, you know, I got to give the people what they want. So, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next time.